For the 58th problem on this first ACT practice test, which of the following number line graphs shows the solution set to the inequality the absolute value of x minus 5 is less than -1? So before we focus on this specific problem, let's take a closer look at absolute values in general. So just as a practical example, let's look at two particular cases: the absolute value of +2 and the absolute value of -2. Now basically, what the absolute value bars mean is that anytime you put a number in it, inside these bars, regardless of whether or not it's positive or negative, the end result is that the number comes out as a positive value. So the absolute value of 2 would just be 2. And the absolute value of -2 would be +2. And one other way you can think about it is on a number line. So we'll put 0 here, and 1 and 2, and we'll put in the negatives. So -1, -2. You can think about absolute value as the distance that a number is from 0. So for this problem here, this absolute value of -2, the reason that this is equal to +2 is because this number, -2, is 2 steps away from 0. So we would say it has an absolute value of 2. But the key takeaway from this is that anything that essentially comes out of absolute value bars has to be positive. So now that we understand that, let's take a closer look at our problem here. So we're dealing with the absolute value of x minus 5. So just to get a better feel for this, let's try a couple specific x values. Like let's say x is equal to 7. So the absolute value of 7 minus 5, this simplifies to just the absolute value of 2, which we already know is just 2. And let's say I put in x equals 2. So then we have the absolute value of 2 minus 5, which simplifies to the absolute value of -3. And again, anything you put inside absolute value bars must be positive when it comes out. So this becomes +3. So you can try this for yourself, but any value of x that you put in, you're always going to end up getting a positive value out. So that's the main property of absolute value bars. And the reason I stress this so importantly is that if we look at our particular problem, this is asking when the absolute value of this expression is less than -1. So the question is, can an absolute value expression ever be less than a negative number? And the answer is no. Since the lowest that this can be is 0, and it always has to be at least that or more. So we can say that this expression has to be bigger than or equal to 0. It has to be a positive value. And it can never be less than 0, and especially not less than -1. So the only solution here is this empty set, this letter k. There are no x values where this is true.